AB 2375 is part of a larger package of bills. These are the bills I'm presenting today that I'm carrying to address the ongoing and underreported issue of roofing that is taking place across California, the country, the world. Roofing, or drink spiking, occurs when a perpetrator incapacitates their victims by slipping date rape drugs such as Lowenthal, GHB, ketamine into the victim's drinks when they are not aware. Typically, drink spiking is not an independent crime. Rather, it's done to make other horrific crimes, such as rape, sexual assault, easier to commit. And while anyone can turn victim to roofing, it's women and members of the LGBTQ community that are targeted the most. Dare I say we've allowed this to go on this long because it's women and members of the LGBT community that are targeted the most. Drink spiking can take place anywhere. However, the most common places are bars and nightclubs where alcoholic beverages are served. When someone has been roofied, not only do the drugs cause memory loss, but they pass through the body extremely fast, making it very difficult for the victim to seek justice after the fact. That is why preventative measures such as this one, the one in this bill that are established, are critically important to tackle this issue. AB 2375 simply requires Type 48 licensed establishments, those are nightclubs and bars, to provide a lid on a patron's drink upon request and to post a sign declaring that this is available. Allowing patrons to have access to lids is a common sense measure to deter perpetrators from attempting to commit these crimes, reducing levels of drink spiking and in turn sexual assault and rape. As a restaurant and bar owner myself, I'm extremely sensitive to this issue. I know just how important it is to provide a safe and inclusive environment for our guests. And this bill adds to the comprehensive approach aimed at doing just that.
It's hard to be up here to say this, but I was a victim when I was 17 years old. I was roofied at a place from Alabama. So I was roofied, and like most girls that dream of, their first time, I didn't get that dream. It was taken away from me that night. I woke up in a field of grass and a lot of blood and a lot of shame. And I know that there's a number of women that experience this and some men in our community. So I think it's very important to offer this, and I'm very grateful. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's brave of you to do, and you're going to turn it into something good. So thank you for that.
Once your drink is spiked, it's too late. It's kind of like drunk driving. Once somebody is buzzed and gets behind the wheel, it's too late. It's about prevention. And for better or for worse, the young generation today calls this roofing. And Lowenthal is actually very seldomly used anymore. It's mostly ketamine. It's mostly GHB. We hear stories of Xanax, of other drugs that are put in, and of course drugs that can be fatal. So it's horrific, and I think you're spot on in terms of educating the public on this. And what the hope is in these package of bills is that we gain a village approach to all of this so that everybody is part and has an obligation, just like with drunk driving right now. When somebody sees somebody who's clearly incapacitated and can't get behind the wheel, it's all of our responsibility to try and stop that person. And when we gain a greater level of education, to your point, it's going to be a collective responsibility for everybody to be vigilant, to watch what's going on. The presence of the testing kits that is going into law in the next few days from last year's 1013 alone should create awareness around this. The signs should create awareness around this. We're not going to stop until we've cut down on sexual assault. The first thing I would like to say is how important it was to have Ms. Martin come and speak and appreciate her courage and bravery. Most sexual assault goes underreported, and that's the problem.
Yep.
And so when we have survivors that are able to stand up and speak and educate the rest of us, it's so impactful, and they should be celebrated for that, for saving lives of others. So thank you so much, Ms. Martin, for being here. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for pointing out that story. Everybody has a story. When I speak to groups of people on these topics, I ask them, raise your hand if you or anybody close to you has been roofied when they go out. And for most women under age 35, they all raise their hand. So this is a big problem. When I presented this bill on the Assembly side, Assemblymember McKinner spoke on the microphone about how she had been roofied in Hollywood. Members of my staff have been roofied. This is a huge, huge problem, and it's going to take a series of bills and vigilance, and we may not get everything perfectly right. And we have to refine over time, but we've got to start, we've got to get out there, we've got to cut down on this problem. Very pleased to present AB 2389, another critical piece of the package of bills carrying to address the issue of roofing. Last year, I authored AB 1013, which I mentioned earlier, requires bars and nightclubs to have anti-roofing test kits available for their patrons. Proud to say this bill goes into effect on July 1st, but we still have work to do on this issue. As people now know that they have these devices to be able to test the presence of date rape drugs, we now need to be prepared with the next steps for the unfortunate event that someone's test comes back positive, or if someone believes that they've been roofied, they feel that they've become incapacitated at that time. They understand. Maybe it's their first cocktail and all of a sudden they can't move their body. They feel completely and totally drugged. AB 2389 requires that if an employee of a restaurant, bar, or nightclub is made aware that a patron has been or believes to have been roofied, an employee of the establishment must take these two actions. Number one, they must contact law enforcement or first responders and or medical services. Number two, to the best of their ability, follow the instructions given by medical or law enforcement personnel over the phone and monitor the drugged individual until these services arrive. Why? Why is that second step so necessary? Because what often happens in these situations is the perpetrator will tell the employees of the bar, that's okay, she's with me, I got her. And they will take her out of the bar, and that's where sexual assault's taking place. And I can tell you as an owner of a bar, that the employees are often so busy, they just want to get the problem out. But getting the problem out can lead to assault. And so we've got to be extra careful. If somebody has been drugged, that's now an issue for law enforcement or medical personnel. These simple extra steps will have the opportunity to reduce levels of sexual assault, rape, even save lives. And again, pleased to be joined by Ms. Tonya Martin here to testify in support.
My life could have changed. You know, if someone would have stepped up and said, hey, she's not doing well, you know, that wouldn't have happened to me. As with a lot of women and men, you know, especially in our community, being president of Long Beach Pride, you know, it's a huge, huge event. And one thing that I love about our membership is that we look out for each other. And when we have these events, you know, that's one of the things that we look for. Somebody's, you know, not able to stand, or we have tents set up and somebody's watching over them. So I think it's very, very important.
Pleased to present AB 2402, the final piece of this package I'll be presenting today. AB 2402 requires that the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control to include training around how to prevent cases of drink spiking into the existing responsible beverage service trainings that are offered to all alcohol serving staff members of restaurants, bars, and nightclubs. All my employees have to go through these trainings. These trainings will now include this piece that has to do with roofing. Increasing the training of employees at these institutions is a critical step in curbing the incidence of roofing, creating a safe and inclusive social environment. I want to note that no single bill, as I stated earlier, will end drink spiking, sexual assault, or rape, but it's important that we keep adding to the comprehensive approach in addressing this epidemic, keep chipping away at this to better protect the people of California. Very pleased to be joined by Raul Verdugo of Alcohol Justice, who is here to testify in support.
By introducing a comprehensive training program, a precedent can be made to meet both the economic and public health interests, ensuring that patrons feel not only safe but reassured. This program will equip proprietors with the confidence that their staff can adequately manage, prevent, and reduce the harm that impacts both men and women. These crimes are often unreported and prove very traumatizing for the victims, despite the level of victimizations that occur. We ask that the committee support AB 2402. Thank you.